The United States tourism industry lost an estimated $5.7 billion in 2025, not just because of a recession or exchange rates, but because Canadians chose to stay away. The reason was political. After a year of rhetoric in which Donald Trump repeatedly insulted Canada, suggested annexation, and treated the country as a subordinate rather than an ally, millions of Canadians made a quiet but powerful decision. They would spend their money elsewhere. This was not a government policy or an organized boycott. It was a collective consumer response. Canadians, the largest group of international tourists to the United States, simply stopped coming. They redirected their vacations, shopping trips, and winter escapes to destinations that made them feel welcome. The economic consequences were immediate and severe. Ski resorts in Montana saw Canadian bookings collapse. Hotels in Florida reported visitor declines of around 20%. Restaurants in Maine experienced their worst year on record, worse than during the COVID period. Duty-free shops along the border cut staff by up to 80% as cross-border traffic dried up. Data from travel associations and Canadian statistics agencies confirm the trend. Canadian air and land travel to the U.S. dropped sharply, with some months showing declines of more than 30%. Border crossings fell nearly 20% overall, and in some states the drop reached 27%. Surveys showed that a majority of Canadians were less likely to travel to the United States because of American political rhetoric, tariffs, and trade hostility. Millions canceled trips outright, even forfeiting deposits, rather than spend money in the U.S. Entire regions felt the impact. New England states reported massive losses in campground reservations and hotel occupancy. Montana, where Canadians once made up the majority of saw tourism spending plunge. Florida and Hawaii experienced sharp declines in Canadian arrivals, affecting hotels, restaurants, retail, and real estate. Credit card spending in border towns collapsed, and small businesses that depended on Canadian customers were pushed to the brink. Behind the numbers were individual choices. Canadians canceled long-standing winter traditions in Florida, gave up annual golf trips, and abandoned plans to buy vacation properties. Some chose to lose thousands of dollars in deposits rather than travel to the United States. Others openly stated they would not return while Trump remained in office. The anger, they emphasized, was not directed at American people, but at American leadership. As Canadians stayed away, they did not stop traveling. Instead, they shifted their spending to Mexico, the Caribbean, Europe, and domestic destinations within Canada. Provisional governments increased tourism promotion to capture this redirected demand. Even countries under U.S. sanctions benefited as Canadians chose destinations that carried no political resentment. American officials took notice. Congressional committees published reports documenting the damage. Senators traveled to Ottawa to meet Canadian leaders and plead for an end to the tourism freeze. Tourism boards launched emergency marketing campaigns offering discounts and reassurance, openly stating how much they missed Canadian visitors. But price cuts could not fix the underlying problem. The issue was not lost cost or convenience. It was trust. Tourism economists warned that even a modest long-term reduction in Canadian travel could cost billions of dollars and tens of thousands of American jobs. More importantly, they warned that tourism behavior is slow to reverse. Once travelers establish new habits, discover new destinations, and build new traditions, they do not automatically return when political conditions improve. The Canadian tourism boycott revealed a deeper shift. For generations, Canadians viewed the United States as a close neighbor and natural partner. That assumption has been damaged. Many Canadians are now reassessing whether the United States deserves their money, goodwill, and loyalty. This is not a temporary disagreement, but a fundamental change in perception. Donald Trump assumed American power meant allies would tolerate any treatment. Instead, 20 million Canadians exercised consumer choice, creating a boycott no policy tool could counter. The result was billions in losses, mounting political pressure, and lasting reputational damage. The $5.7 billion loss is not the end of the story. It is just the beginning of a long-term reckoning over how words, when backed by power, can carry an economic cost that lingers long after they are spoken.